Hey, what's going on, guys? Before we get started, I just want to let you know May 25th, we're going to be hosting an event on my Discord server. I'll leave a link down below. We're going to be watching a movie, and that's part of the broadcast from Terror Mountain, like community events that we do. It'll be a lot of fun. If you go to the Discord, you'll see all the information there. And let's get started. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a feeling that I call like playing to an empty room, right? And what that means is like you're just starting out, or maybe you've been doing it for a while, and you're not really gaining a lot of traction. And that can be really disheartening. And so I'll talk about how I feel about that and what I do and what I am doing to kind of help overcome that, and the things that you can find in that feeling that are actually really positive, that might help you like grow and sustain doing that, right? So I know for me, like I've had a lot of endeavors. I've like tried YouTube multiple times. I used to do music. I've always wanted to do like something super creative and just to have like an outlet. And for me, like I get really, really excited right at the onset. And I think, okay, cool. Like I'm really passionate about this. This is definitely something I'm going to stick to. And like 6 months later, I'm on to something else. And that feeling sucks, dude. It is so disheartening because you're just like, man, like however much effort you put into like the pre-production of like this new endeavor, and then it's just like gone, like it's out the window, and it's like, oh man. I will admit, Thurdoon is the only thing that I've stuck with as long as that I have, right? So this started back in like late 2018, early 2019. It's 2023 and I'm still doing this, and I'm like shocked. Like I'm surprised myself that I've stuck with it. So I mean, the biggest thing for me is like you look at like your Instagram post, or you look at like anything that you're doing, right, to like get your name out there, and you can see, oh, I've only got 2 likes. Like no one cares, no one is interacting, like no one's doing anything. It's so easy to get burnt out when you don't have like a feedback, right? Like you don't have any reward system. And that's not necessarily to say like sales or anything like that, but it's like, dude, I spent hours making this, and like I posted it to Instagram. I got 4 likes and that's it. You know, and it's like, dude, how am I going to find the inspiration to keep going? Like there's other things that I can focus on in life, you know, like I can work on getting a better job, or I can, you know, like there's so many different facets to life. Why am I spinning my wheels doing this? One thing that I would say is, in a sense, like it's really, there's a lot of freedom in this idea that like you're playing to this empty room, right? You're able to make as many mistakes as you want to make. And that to me is like super liberating, because then it's this idea of like, okay, like let me just do 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, however many. Let me just try all these different things. And if one of those things works, cool, I've learned, and now I can keep going. But if you were like huge, like say that you're, you know, this like giant company, or like you're super famous, you're super successful, things really, really turn in the other direction, where you're not able to make mistakes. Like you are not able to have like a single misstep, because if you do, it could be absolutely disastrous, like on any sort of proportional scale, right? But to have that freedom now, I think is such a good feeling. So like I would definitely take that into account and say, okay, if no one is watching what I'm doing, then I'm going to do as many different things as I want, and we'll see. We'll see what works. Like I know for me, like I've done a lot of things that looking back, I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. Like I shouldn't have done that. And I feel, I don't know, silly, There's a lot of designs, like t-shirt designs that I had made like in the past that even at the time that I made them, I looked at them and I was like, well, I wouldn't wear that. Like I don't want to even like I don't even want to spend, $25 or however much to like buy that shirt because I know that I'm not even going to wear it. But I kept putting stuff out like that, thinking that it was, good and, hey, if you make something, someone's going to end up liking it, whatever. And at some point it just kind of like hit me like, dude, dummy, if you're not willing to spend, any amount of money to buy this product, like literally why would anyone else? And to me it's so funny because it's like, I think on the surface of it, that's like a super obvious thing, right? Like that's not like a lesson that should have been learned, right? Like you should have known that beforehand. But dang, dude, it was definitely a lesson, and it's something that I had to like actually learn. Through that freedom of exploration, you also have a responsibility to yourself to have forgiveness. Okay. Not everything that you do is going to be a winner, right? And you're definitely going to invest time in different facets and, directions. You have to be able to forgive yourself to say, okay, I thought that was going to be $1 million idea. I thought that was going to be the thing that really popped everything off, and it ended up falling flat. I forgive myself, and I applaud myself. I applaud myself for even trying, right? You have to have that, because if you beat yourself up over every failure, then it's not going to happen for you. All the time, you see these people that are wildly successful, and the one thing that they all have in common that they'll tell you is, if you fail, you got to get back up again and do it over and try something else. Like, yeah, that's true, right? But something I think that they don't talk about is the forgiveness aspect, right? It's super easy to, again, get super amped and jazzed and like daydream and fantasize like, oh, this next thing that I do is going to be so good. And you spend the time and you spin the wheels and it falls flat. That's tough. Like that is a tough thing to deal with. And it's also very tough to admit to yourself that you were wrong, right? And like that's not just in business or just in work. Like that's like a commonality in life, like if you want to be like just a all around better, more well-rounded person, like, dude, you got to be able to say, look, I messed up, and people are really going to respect that, right? And I think that you yourself are going to respect yourself more if you're able to just say, look, I goofed, but it's okay. Everybody goofs. We're good. So my early background primarily is in music. So like during high school and like early adulthood, I was in a band. And starting off, like you play these shows and you really legitimately are playing to like an empty room. There might be some people that are there for, other bands. Maybe everybody, like, you play one song and everybody walks out. Super, super, like, soul-crushing, right? And so, like, picture that scenario, right? So you've got, like, a band, and they're on stage, and they're just getting started, like, they're just learning. Do you have, like, more respect and, like, excitement for the band that comes out, looks at the crowd, and says, okay, there is nobody here, but we are going to crush it. Like, maximum energy. We are dedicated, even if no one's here to see it, right? Or do you respect more the opposite, where the whole band says, oh, there's no one out there? We're either A, not going to play, because why? Why would we? Or B, you know, they just like low energy, they're upset, they don't want to be there, and it's obvious that they don't want to be there, right? No, dude, you want the band to crush it, whether there's anybody there or not. Like, the show must go on. And that is like this mentality that I've had my whole life, where like, if I'm going to do something, like, I want to show up, whether you're there to see it or not, I don't care, right? Because at the end of the day, like, I want to know that I gave it my best. And I think that that's like a noble thing. I feel like most people outside of that situation, most people would say yes, right? Like, that's who I am. That's who I want to be, right? I can't imagine that anybody would be faced with that scenario and say, oh no, I'm just going to walk out, right? But saying that outside of that situation versus like actually legitimately being on stage and no one's there is two completely different things, right? Like, you have to actually be put into that position to know how you will react, right? And I think because I think a lot about like streamers, like on Twitch, right? And so there's like so many people that they watch these streamers, they watch people on YouTube, and they say, I want to do that. I want to be able to touch people's lives in that way. And to be perfectly honest, in a lot of ways, I'm in that same boat, right? And so you start going, and you might have like one viewer, like your first ever viewer. You're finally no longer playing to an empty room. And you might get jazzed, and you're like, hey man, what's up? You know, thanks for checking out my stream. Like, I'm really glad that you're here. And then the dude leaves, and you're back to zero. And it's like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, I was so close. Like, I was so close. I almost got like a follow. And I think a lot of people, they get super like burnt out, you know. But it's like, man, like, how do we overcome that? Like, how do we just decide, okay, look, today may not be the day, but I'm going to do my best, and I will do this, and I will show up, right? The best way that I've found in myself to like overcome this, you know, feeling and to be able to push through it is really, honestly, you know, it is showing up, but it's making things that are to such a caliber that you yourself look at it and say, okay, like, I would enjoy watching that back, right? I guess to give an example, the first time that I started doing YouTube, I was doing like World of Warcraft PvP videos, right? And I was like in college, and it was during like Mist of Pandaria. I had my Panda Monk, like I was in it, and I was just doing Battlegrounds, right? For anybody that knows World of Warcraft. And I think I had probably like 30 to 40 videos by the time that I had like quit YouTube. But I remember I would sit and watch my earlier videos, and I couldn't sit through the entire video. It was so boring. My commentary was off. It wasn't enjoyable, right? And towards the end, I started to really sit down and evaluate that and say, like, okay, that's a really big issue. Like, if I can't watch my own stuff back and think that it's fun or enjoyable, like that's a thing that has to be resolved, right? And I think at the time, I felt like, oh, that makes sense. Like, it's my own video. Like, I was there. There's no surprises or anything like that. Like, obviously, I'm not going to like my own stuff. To a certain degree, it was almost the same way with my music when I was in a band where we practiced like 6 days a week. I was just sick of those songs, right? Like I could play them in my sleep. And you just hear them over and over and over and over again. And to be perfectly honest, even now looking back, I don't even know if we were good, because I'm like still 10 years on, I'm still so sick of those songs that I genuinely don't know like if we were good at making music. I don't know. I couldn't be the one to tell you. But I do look back on the, you know, everything that I've done with Thurdoon, and I'm proud, right? Like I can look at that and say like, yeah, like one, I would wear that, or two, I really, if I came across this and I wasn't myself, right? If I was someone else, I would think that the things that I'm doing are cool, right? Are, you know, sick and they're enjoyable, and it's like, dude, like that's super gnarly, like I'm down for it, right? And I think that having that feeling towards the things that you're doing really helps to push through that feeling that no one is watching, because at the end of the day, in a sense, like you're the one that's watching, right? Like you're the one that's kind of I think if you're doing it for you, then that really helps, right? And you're not doing it for ego. You're not doing it for, you know, to pick up people and, you know, oh, I do this and that's my free time and blah, blah, blah. I'm so interesting and cool. Like, no. There came a time with Thurdoon that, like, I really wanted, like, a hat. And I wanted a hat that had, like, an American flag, but like it wasn't the stars, it was something different, you know, some like alchemy thing. And I thought about it and I was like, wait, hold on, like I can just make that, right? And so I made it, I bought it, wear the hat all the time, super cool. And then after that it was like, oh, like I need like a new phone case. Why don't I just make a phone case, right? So like I do all that, I got my phone case, and from there it just kind of started to spin out where it's like, oh, I really want like a t-shirt that looks like this, or I want, you know, sweatpants that look like that. Yeah, let me just go ahead and make that, right? So that I can buy it. I'll wear it. I don't even care if no one else does. You know, it's not about that. It's about me, right? It's about my taste and the things that I like and the things that I'm interested in. And I think to a certain degree, like when it comes to the YouTube channel, like that's kind of where I have a lot of issues, right? Because I think about like, what is it content-wise that I want to make versus like content that I would watch? And I'm trying still to find that balance between this is content that I would genuinely watch and genuinely would be interested in, you know, experiencing, right? I think that I'm getting closer to that point. But I don't think that I'm there yet. So bear with me. You know, to be honest, funny enough, you guys are actively watching me during my phase of playing to an empty room, right? And so I'm going to lead by example, and I'm showing up, right? Are you showing up today?